Welcome to the Developer Server's YouTube channel. On today's episode, we're going to be building a Gradio app, which is a voice-to-voice translator app, but we're going to build that without any API keys. So meaning we're going to build and do the translation with completely free transcribing and text-to-speech without any API keys. Let's see the application in action. This is the application that we're going to build. Let me give you an example. Today the sky is blue. We can play that back. Today the sky is blue. And I'm going to submit to do the translation. We're going to wait a couple of seconds. And now we have the translations. Let's hear them.
Hoje o céu está azul.
That's Portuguese. Let's hear it to the Spanish.
Hoy el cielo es azul.
The French.
Aujourd'hui le ciel est bleu.
And finally the German.
Heute ist der Himmel blau.
That's the application. Let's see how we can build this application with very simple few lines of code. So as you can see, I'm in my PyCharm project. We're only going to need two files. We have the requirement files and we have the main.py file where we implement all the logic. Let's see in terms of libraries and dependencies what we are going to need. So obviously, since we are building the user interface with Gradio, we're going to need to import Gradio. We're going to import faster Whisper so that we can do the transcribing of the audio and that we can do on the CPU. We're going to use a Python translate module to perform the several different translations. And we're going to be using the Google text-to-speech library so that we can do the text-to-speech after the translated text. So all these libraries do not require API keys. All of them are free, so we can build the application completely for free and have a voice-to-voice translation app for free. So now let's see our main.py file where we implemented the complete logic of this application. Let's check the imports first. So we're going to need to import path to manage with the other files later on. Obviously, we're importing Gradio for the user interface. Like I mentioned, we're importing WhisperModel from Faster Whisper, the Google text-to-speech, and the translator from the translate module. This is all for the imports. So next we have a series of actions where we perform the different necessary methods. So we have one action to transcribe the audio. We have another action to translate the transcribed audio. And we have then an action to do the speech synthesis, meaning to speech the translated text. And we have a main function that organizes the whole necessary flow. And finally, we have the Gradio interface where we can record the sound and display the output of the translated text. So let's see each function individually now. So first we start with our transcribe audio function that will receive an audio file name. First we're initializing the output text as empty. Then we have a try catch where we are going to be performing the transcribing logic. First we define the model size, which is going to be small. Then we load the Whisper model with the model size small. We're going to be using the CPU in this case. The input type is int8, which runs a bit faster on the CPU. With that model, we can then transcribe the audio by calling the transcribe function on the model that receives the audio file in the beam size of 5, meaning the sliding window where it can perform the translation. This transcribe function will retrieve the segments and the info. The info is additional information about the transcribed text, and the segments is the text that we need. So then we're going to be iterating for all the segments. So for each of the segments, we're going to be appending the segment text to the output text, giving a little space. So we're creating a string with all the different segments that have been transcribed. And finally, we're outputting that return text, the output text, and none in this case if no error. If there was an error, we don't return the text and return the error string. So after transcribing the audio, obviously we need to translate that text that has been transcribed. We have our translate transcription, which receives the text, which is the transcribed audio. And then we're going to be translating that to Portuguese, to Spanish, to French, and to German. And the way that we are translating that is we're creating an instance of the translator. We say from language English and to language PT, in this case for Portuguese, and we have ES for Spanish, FR for French, and D for German. So we instantiate our translator instance, and then we call the translate over that text that receives the translated text. We do this for Portuguese, like I mentioned, and for all the other languages, Spanish, French, and German. And after that, we return the different translated text, and obviously none error message. And if an error occurs, we do not return any of the translations, and we return the error message. So after we have the text transcribed and the audio transcribed and the text translated, we need to do the text-to-speech, and we do that with the function speech synthesis. It receives the text, which is a translated text in this case, and the language, so that we can adjust the speech. So we're instantiating a Google text-to-speech. We're passing in the text, and we're passing in also the language, and we're going to be passing in slow equals false, so that it speeches at a normal speech tone. We're creating a file name, which is the language and the audio, so that the files don't override each other. We are saving the translation or the audio file with the speech to that file name. Then we're returning that file name, no error message, and if there is an exception, no file name, and we return that error message. So now that we have all the different three individual functions, the transcribe, translate, and the text-to-speech, let's see the function that organizes all of them. So that is a translate voice-to-voice function, which receives the audio file name. The first thing we do is we transcribe the audio. So we're calling our transcribe audio function that we saw before, passing in the audio file name. We receive a transcription or an error if an error has happened. If an error has happened, then we raise a Gradio error to display that error message. If everything is okay with the transcription, then we translate the transcription. We translate to the 4 different languages and receive also the error message if that's the case by using our translate transcription that we saw before, and we pass in, of course, the transcription that we just received in the previous function call. Again, if there's an error, we raise that error, and then we're going to be synthesizing, or meaning text-to-speech of the different translations. We start with the PT one, so we call our speech synthesize function. We pass our PT translation, indicating that it's also language PT. If there was an error, we raise that Gradio error, and then we repeat the same for Spanish, for the audio, for the French, and for the Dutch audio, or the German audio. Then with each of the file paths, we're converting that, or file names, we're converting that to an actual path so that we can pass it to Gradio, so that the Gradio can show the audio and play the audio. So we do the transformation from the file name to proper audio path, and we do that for all the different languages, and we return the different audio paths in this function that's going to be used later on Gradio. So with all the functions now built, we're going to see how we create our interface. So I'll be creating first our audio input on Gradio, so that's with the Gradio audio. The sources is going to be only the microphone, so you cannot upload any other files, so you can only record any audio. And this type file path indicates that this audio output will, the output of this audio recording is going to be a file that we can then pass to the functions as we saw before. Our demo itself, it's in our interface for that is going to be built with the Gradio interface. The function that's going to be called from that interface is translate voice to voice. As we saw before, that's the function that organizes everything. So we're going to be passing that function, translate voice to voice. The input of that interface, we're passing in our audio input. So that's going to be the audio input where we can record the audio. In terms of output, we're going to have several different Gradio audio outputs with the different labels, Portuguese and Spanish and German. And these outputs are going to be matched to the outputs that we have returned from the voice-to-voice function by the translate function voice-to-voice. The function is passed here. So the audio input, meaning the audio that the function receives, the audio file, comes as an output of the audio input. Is matching this input here, and the different outputs of the function. It matches the outputs that are defined in the interface, and so we can play each of the different audios. And of course, we launch our demo, and that launches the Gradio interface. Let's now run the application to see again how it works. I'm running our Gradio app. It'll take a few seconds to load. There it is. As you can see, this is the interface. If it's the first time that you are running, you might get a browser warning to authorize the use of the microphone. I already did it, so it's not showing. You can select different microphones. I'm going to choose my toner microphone in this case. So let's record some audio. This application works amazingly. And we can play back that audio. This application works amazingly. Now let's submit for the translation. So it's doing the transcribing, it's doing the translation, and then it's doing the text-to-speech, each for the different type of languages. So since we're running locally on the CPU, it might take a few seconds for all of it to be transcribed and translated and text-to-speech. You see, does not take that much of time. Now let's hear the different translations. Let's start with Portuguese.
Esta aplicação funciona de forma surpreendente.
Spanish.
Esta aplicación funciona de maravilla.
French.
Cette application fonctionne à merveille.
And finally German.
Diese Anwendung funktioniert erstaunlich.
And that is all. As you can see, with very few lines of code, a couple of open source libraries, and Gradio for the interface, we can very quickly build a voice translating app that allows to translate for several different voices and hearing the sound being speech also in terms of that translation. So like this video if you like this content, subscribe to the channel for more content about Python, Django, and AI to be notified when that content is out. And until next time, happy coding!